Everybody in the convention, they're not here to see anybody else. They're all online to see us. I don't know, Image, we got 3 people there, and they're McFarlane and Lee.
So a lot of people's first run-in with Milestone is most likely from watching the Static Shock cartoon, even if they have no idea what Milestone is. That cartoon introduced the world and an entire generation to Virgil Ovid Hawkins, better known as Static. Where did Static come from, and whose life inspired the character? The transcript for this essay is available on my website, witsendpod.com. Milestone Media launched in 1993 and was founded by writer Dwayne McDuffie, artist Denys Cowan, reporter and editor Derek T. Dingle, and writer-artist-teacher Michael Davis. DC higher-ups Paul Levitz and Jeanette Kahn took a risk and backed Milestone, leading to a new generation of stories that had never been done in superhero comics. These guys worked in mainstream comics but wanted more control over their stories and creations. The goal of Milestone was to tell comic book stories about underrepresented groups and social issues. I talked about this in my Milestone essay, but here's Michael Davis from 1993 explaining the Milestone deal with DC.
Myself, DC, all-time Warner, owns no stock or equity in our company. What we have is a really great partnership with these guys. We have licensed the rights to the Dakota universe to them for an X amount of period of time, in which time they distribute and print and license our characters for publishing and cards and all the rest of that stuff. All the characters are owned by Milestone Media. All the characters are trademarked by Milestone Media. The publishing rights at this point belong to DC. And what that has done is given us rack space right alongside Superman and Batman. And you could do a lot worse than being alongside Superman and Batman, because Batman backhoe broke, so he's not like taking a lot of rack space as it is.
4 titles released the year of Milestone's debut: Hardware, Blood Syndicate, Icon, and Static. Davis was originally supposed to be the artist for Static, but let's go back a minute. On top of being a founder, Davis's role was promotion and working on the business side of Milestone. He even ran a mentorship program called Bad Boy Studios, which was formed in 1987 in Harlem. First, what is Bad Boy Studios? Davis has mentioned one of his biggest mentors was his mother Jean. During his early days in comics, Davis had been inspired by people in the industry he considered mentors like Mike Richardson and later Paul Levitz. They helped show him the ropes, and he wanted to pay it forward for a new generation, which sparked the idea for Bad Boy Studios. Another thing is that it wasn't an actual studio space. People would go to Davis's house and learn how to write, draw, and hone their craft to break into comics professionally. The class expanded at one point to where Davis would teach students at the School of Visual Arts and DC's offices. Quote, "I did not teach the students art so much as life skills. Bad Boy Studios was about learning how to be a professional above all else." It's a long list, but his students included artist John Paul Leon and colorist Chris Sotomayor, who still colors Milestone projects. I'll get to Leon very soon. The thing about Static is how heavily connected Davis is to that character.
I will give you a bit of information. Static's family. Static's mother's name is Jean, and his father's name is Robert. And it just so happens that my mother's name is Jean, and my father's name is Robert. And Static has a sister named Sharon. It just so happens that I have a sister named Sharon.
In a twist of fate, Davis took a chance on one of his students instead of drawing Static himself. Quote, "When John Paul Leon came into my mentor program, it wasn't long before I decided his style was better suited for Static than my frequent photo reference technique." So Leon ended up being Static's artist with Robert L. Washington III as the writer. At first, Dwayne McDuffie co-wrote Static, but Washington soon took over the book himself, giving the series a fresh voice that still holds up today. Tragedy struck when Davis's sister Sharon was murdered, which ravaged his family. According to Davis, his mother was touched by the fact that her daughter could live on in some way in the pages of Static. These companies could have changed the names in the original comics, the animated series, and even the most recent Milestone revival. Yet Virgil's family is still based on Davis's family. Let's go back to John Paul Leon for a minute. Outside of being an incredible artist who died way too soon, he was kind of the ideal candidate for Static. Virgil is an up-and-coming hero with a fresh style, and Leon's artwork reflected that, even though he was only on 9 of the original 45 issues. Leon even came back for the Static reunion series, Rebirth of the Cool, in 2001. Even after Leon left Static to work on Milestone's Shadow Cabinet, his energy seemed to inspire the book when other artists like Wilfred Santiago and Jeffrey Moore took over in later issues. Let's take a look at Davis's style versus Leon's style really quickly. Davis has done it all. He's been an inker, colorist, and penciler for Marvel and DC. Here's some of his art from DC's Wasteland number 14 and Shadow Song of the Dragon number 1. Wasteland is a mature horror anthology from the late 80s that has a Vertigo Comics feel to it. Outside of a RoboCop miniseries from Dark Horse, Static was one of Leon's earliest comics gigs, so I'll use a page from Static number 1. Davis's art in Shadow is more grounded and uses references where his Wasteland work has a haunted dreamlike feel to it. Leon's style feels more kinetic, optimistic, and fits Virgil's outgoing personality really well. That said, Davis could have carried some Vertigo title if he wasn't founding his own company. Quote, "I gave John my family to take care of when I gave him Static to draw. Because of him and Robert Washington, Static is loved by millions all over the world. Yeah, the TV show is the medium, but no John Paul Leon, no Robert Washington, no TV show." One important detail is that Davis ended up leaving Milestone in 1994. He was approached by Motown Records and became the CEO for their animation department. Since then, he's worked in TV, continued mentoring, hosts panels for creatives, and produces various art and writing projects. The original run of Milestone ended in 1997, however, it's had some relaunches and animated incarnations over the years, including the Static Shock cartoon and Young Justice. Despite its short run, it had a strong output with fresh and culturally relevant stories. There's been a new generation of Milestone stories coming out for a new generation of readers, including a more modern take on Static. With superhero comics like this, it's not just one person involved in the process. There are writers, artists, inkers, colorists, editors, but the seed and heart of Static goes all the way back to Davis. His world got scooped up and dropped into the world of a character that took on a life of its own in different comics and media. The Milestone comics are worth a read and hold up today. I've talked about them at length, but Virgil is the heart of that universe and he's Milestone's most recognizable character. So credit should go to the Milestone founders, Christopher Priest, John Paul Leon, and Robert Washington, with a focus on Davis. One related essay I made covers the artist Billy Graham, who worked on Black Panther, Luke Cage, and Saber. He's an amazing, versatile artist who had an impact on Davis himself. The other one covers the history and impact of Milestone Media. It dives into the development of Milestone, Christopher Priest's involvement in the company's Bible, and everything else. So those would be companions to this one. I've added the editorials Michael Davis has written in the description, since they give his perspective on events in his own words. The transcript for this essay and all of my videos are on my website, witsendpod.com. As always, if it's not on my website, it's not me. Share these essays around. Thanks for watching. Chaos ensues.